Let me ask you something. If you walked into a hospital in pain, real pain, how confident are you that you'd be believed? Now ask yourself honestly, would your answer change depending on what you look like? Because the data says it should, and that's the problem. Here's what people don't tell you about the NHS Maternity Crisis. It didn't start with underfunding or with COVID. It started, if we're being honest, with a much older story, one about whose body has historically been considered worthy of care, of belief, and of dignity. In the 19th century, a man named J. Marion Sims, celebrated as the father of modern gynecology, developed his surgical techniques by operating on enslaved black women without any anesthesia. And that's because the prevailing belief was that black people felt less pain. Now that was in 1845. But ask yourself, how much of that belief has actually left? A national investigation led by Baroness Amos, published just recently, found systemic failures inside NHS maternity services across England. And we're not just talking about staff shortages or poor communication, although there was evidence of those things. We're talking about racism. And not racism as in someone using a racial slur in a delivery room. Racism as in patterns, consistent, measurable, deadly pattern. You see, black women in the UK are 3 times more likely to die in childbirth than white women, and Asian women twice as likely. And when you dig into the why, it's not biology or genetics. It comes down to something far more human and far more concerning. It's about who gets believed, who gets seen quickly, who gets the benefit of the doubt when they say something just doesn't feel right. Now, this is where culture comes in, and I don't mean race as a category. I mean the cultural assumptions baked into how care is delivered. Women from black and global majority backgrounds told investigators that their pain was dismissed, that when they raised concerns, they were labeled as difficult, emotional, aggressive. There's actually a term for this. It's called cultural load. The invisible weight of having to perform calmness, to over-explain yourself, to prove that what you're feeling is real, all while your body is under stress. Meanwhile, midwives, not always out of malice, but out of unconscious bias, describe black women as naturally more resistant, stronger, like they could handle more. When you believe someone can handle more, you give them less. And then there's what happens after something goes wrong. Families who lost babies, who found that records had been changed, gaps, inconsistencies. A paper trail that told a different story to the one they lived through. Culture lands differently depending on who you are. If you already feel like the system wasn't fully on your side and the records don't match what you remember, where do you go? Who do you trust? What recourse do you actually have? For a lot of the families, the answer was not much. So what do we do with all of this? We have to start by being honest, because healthcare is not a neutral space, and it never has been. The Amos report is important, but reports don't save lives on their own. Culture does, training does, accountability does, and above all, listening does. Because the women who didn't survive, they weren't silent. They said something was wrong. But the question is, why no one heard them?